Yeah, it's my call. I made the call. Mike had a different call, Coach Uramovich, and we should have gone with his. In retrospect, certainly should have let Mike run his. Probably would have worked. But if mine works, then we're sitting here, we're still playing. So, I'm a big boy. I understand.
The Owls fall short in their season opener, but coaches and players think there are better pastures ahead.
We finally got a game to break down and another one to preview as this season is finally in full swing.
Inside the Nest is back and ready to get you ready for week 2, and it all starts right now.
Hello everyone and welcome into a new edition of Inside the Nest. Joined by Dom Gillespie and Adam Cronali, I'm Ray Dunn. There is finally a game to talk about.
Definitely a game to talk about, Ray. The season opener didn't go the way of the Owls, but the home opener could be a different story. That's taking place this Saturday at the Link.
But as Adam mentioned, we will start this show with the past Saturday night. The Owls went to Annapolis for their season opener, and in a single word, Temple was rusty.
Rusty is certainly one word you could use, Dom. Another word could be inexperienced. Let's jump right into the action here. How about this to start off the game for Navy's offense and Temple's defense? A 17-play, 75-yard drive that lasts nearly 10 minutes, topped off with a 4th and goal push-in from Jamel Carruthers. And how about this? The midshipmen come right back down the field, marching down, 2-yard score for Chance Warren, but neither of those guys were the real star out of the backfield in this one for Navy. And speaking of stars out of the backfield, how about Anthony Russo getting the first score of the season for Temple into the end zone, makes it 14-10 at the time.
Keeping with the running theme, Nelson Smith breaks away, going untouched all the way to the house. 21-10 Navy on the 26-yard score. Second half now, the Owls in the red zone. You two remember when I said the Russo-Mack connection would give us a touchdown? There it is. Good fake by Russo there. But Nelson Smith once again for Navy, untouched again, and gets his second rushing touchdown of the game.
Temple is back on offense and needs this one to stay in the game, and I can guarantee no one called this one. Russo barrels his way into the end zone for his second rushing touchdown of the game. It's still a one-possession game even after Navy hits a field goal. The Owls need this one on 3rd and goal. Give to Ray Davis, and he'll get in for 6. The Owls are a 2-point conversion away from a tie. Game is on the line. Russo looks and fires to Ray Davis in the flat. That one will fall incomplete. A costly decision by Russo and the coaching staffs cost the Owls a chance to go to OT as they fall 31-29 in week 1.
There's no moral victory on it, but we fought the entire time. And certainly make a catch, do something different, one play here or there. I think that we're talking about a different result, but we're not, so we got to go back to work and get some things corrected here. Nothing's broke. I think a couple things are bent, and we got to get them straightened out.
Playing football is kind of like riding a bicycle. Once you get through the first couple, quarters or plays, you kind of you keep rolling. We play football at a collegiate level, so there's no excuse for, our loss today.
We just thought, stay warm when you get out to do what you got to do. For me, it just get us the yards that we need to get and try to, continue to pound the ball. And every chance that I get, I got to make some of it.
I think I was definitely more comfortable as the game progressed. I think when we get into the red zone, things happen a little quicker and reads happen a little quicker, I just have to take a deep breath and relax. And because I know where the ball is going to go 99% of the time before the snap, I just can't get too antsy. I just got to take a deep breath, relax, and make the throws like I can.
The offense did not seem to be the big issue on Saturday. Russo had 3 total touchdowns and he threw for 200 yards with a 70% completion rate. Ray Davis carried a heavy load in the backfield, 22 carries on 4.4 yards per carry. Brandon Mack is looking like a true WR1 with 80 yards and a touchdown. The bright spot for the defense was the return of the single digit. IGM had 14 tackles and a sack for the Wild Boys, but overall, the defense really struggled.
Looking at the numbers for Navy, that's the story of the game. The midshipmen ran all over the Owls despite the months of preparation for the triple option. Nelson Smith had more rushing yards in this game than in his first 3 games this season combined. Jamel Carruthers scored his first rushing touchdown of the year. And not on here, but worth pointing out, my stop for success last week focused on the Owls stopping Navy on 3rd down, which they simply did not do, allowing the midshipmen to convert on 57% of their attempts.
It's time for some action with Safran. Inside the Nest reporter Josh Safran now joins us to break down a little bit more of what Temple could have done differently in this loss to Navy.
Thanks, Adam. You guys have already harped on Temple's rusty play trying to defend that triple option, a huge factor in the loss. But in such a narrow game like Saturday's, it's hard not to put a microscope on some of the smaller plays that could have pushed the Owls over the edge. Following Navy's sluggish start to the season, Saturday's result isn't one many Owls fans were anticipating. The final score may have surprised some, but for Temple, it feels like the same story with some different faces. A few plays here, a few missed opportunities there, and it might have been a different outcome. But ultimately, when you give up 251 yards on the ground, it's hard to find many ways to win.
Touchdown, Navy! Our pad level was just too high. It was a real simple thing. Like, this isn't an X and O thing. This isn't a personnel thing. This is a really fundamental thing in football. Our pad level was just too damn high.
Temple returned just 3 defensive starters this season, so a slow start on that side of the ball should be expected. But they had issues converting on offense, especially in the red zone. Though the Owls doubled Navy's red zone opportunities with 6, they were only able to find pay dirt 4 of those times. Not a bad conversion rate on paper, but those points left off the board were very obtainable.
And for me to throw an interception late in the second half there, and on the first drive, miss blue on a wide open touchdown, which would have gave us 7 points instead of 3. Both of those drives right there, we're going to have a different outcome. I was real calm in between the 20s, but once we got into the red zone, I was tending to rush a little bit.
Even after a handful of miscues in some of the game's biggest moments, Temple was just a 2-point conversion away from forcing overtime. The play drawn up was a questionable swing pass to Ray Davis that never had a chance.
It's my call. I made the call. Mike had a different call, Coach Uramovich, and we should have gone with his in retrospect.
The coaches are going to say it's their fault with the play call, but at the end of the day, I got to be a football player and a smart football player at that, and make sure that no matter what, I got to fight and scratch and claw to either run that thing in myself, or give somebody a chance to make a play in the end zone so we get those 2 points.
That 2-point conversion play was Russo's final throw of the game, surely leaving a bad taste in his mouth. But they say all good quarterbacks have a short memory, and Russo will certainly need one this week before taking on the 3rd best passing defense in the country this Saturday against USF. With Inside the Nest, I'm Josh Safran. Dom, back to you.
Thank you so much, Josh. But we turn to some breaking news out of Philadelphia this morning. A council has announced that outdoor venues that can hold more than 10,000 people are now allowed to operate at 15% capacity. So, a venue that can hold more than 10,000, Lincoln Financial Field. At the Eagles game this weekend, there's going to be 7,500 people. Now, what does that mean for Temple? This coming Saturday, not too much. Only players and coaches' families can come to the game to watch the Owls play this Saturday. But later on in this season, the Owls have announced a 3-game ticket plan if no other problems arrive going forward.
Fans or not, we have to take our first break. When we come back, it's on to USF. We'll highlight what we learned and what we're looking for in Game 2 this week.
Plus, we'll hear from head coach Rod Carey on how he and the team are looking to bounce back from that loss in Annapolis. We'll be right back.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. 5 out of 6 of our crew members had Temple beating the Midshipmen this weekend, with Adam being the only one who chose Navy to win. So, needless to say, there's a lot we did not know going into Week 1. So it's time to recap. What did we learn in Week 1? So for me, what I learned, Russo is still good, but he's not great. He added some legs this offseason. He had those 2 rushing touchdowns of the game. Not a lot of people saw that coming, but taking care of the football is still a huge concern. He had that costly INT at the end of the first half in the red zone. And the last drive, he had a couple iffy throws as well. That last drive was only really saved by Brandon Mack's trick play to set the Owls up in the end zone.
For me, special teams is still very much a concern for this team. Will Mobley was unable to record a touchback on 5 kicks this past Saturday, only launching them an average of 56 yards, which is second worst in the conference. While he remains a solid field goal kicker, I'm not sure he's a kickoff specialist. The kick coverage was also spotty, allowing Navy to start from beyond its own 40-yard line 2 different times. Most of all, Temple's kick returns were just bad. 18.7 yards per return will not get it done.
Yeah, Ray, special teams is definitely something to watch again this year. At least it looks like that through 1 week. For me, it's plain and simple. Like I talked about last week, that front seven on the defensive side just showed a lot of inexperience in that game, or rust, you could call it, with guys like IGM, who was a single digit last year, but coming off the injury. I mean, IGM actually did a good job overall, but the guys around him, it was just disappointing to see. Navy, obviously, they're going to get a lot of yards rushing because they run that triple option, but that triple option ran for a season high and the win, and they just dominated time of possession. They were really able to control the game, Navy's offense did, and Temple looked tired, inexperienced, unable to tackle. It just wasn't good, but the good news, I guess you could say, is you probably won't see Temple go up against a triple option the rest of the season.
And another positive to take out of this is the receiving corps. Russo took advantage of his weapons, completing 70% of his passes for 6.9 yards per attempt, both above his numbers from a year ago. Receiver is widely considered the most talented position group on the team, and grad student Brandon Mack led the way in catches and yards while having the sole receiving touchdown of the game.
Jaden Blue also managed 5 grabs on 40 yards of receiving. Remember, he eclipsed 1,000 yards last year. Not the exact same production, but a good start nonetheless. And as a position group that was a bit of a question mark after Kenny Yeboah transferred to Ole Miss, it was tight end. David Martin Robinson had 14.4 yards per catch, and he was the recipient of that trick play pass by Brandon Mack to set up the Owls in the red zone with the game on the line.
That's also certainly something else to look at. Obviously, Brandon Mack, a former quarterback in high school. Let's look at that run defense that I just mentioned with the triple option offense, really a success for Navy. Temple allowed Navy to run for a season-high 251 rushing yards on Saturday. Runs up the middle were probably the biggest eye-opener for viewers and myself watching the game. It was a lack of presence from those single digits that we thought we could probably rely on. Dan Archibong, Ifeanyi Maje, Isaiah Graham-Mobley, and Will Quinku. There's a play in particular I'm thinking of right now where Will Quinku gets completely taken out of the play by the right guard of Navy, and it leads to a Nelson Smith touchdown. It was the second one that he had on the day. Just a lack of presence in the middle really, I think, led to a lot of those big plays for Navy's offense and that run defense.
On Monday afternoon, Coach Carey met with the media and started off his session joking about having to relive the game for us when he's telling his team to move on. Inside the Nest reporter Sage Hurley was in the Zoom call and joins us now. Hey, Sage.
Thanks, Ray. During this week's press conferences, Coach Carey and players talked about how the team is feeling after Saturday's loss and what they're expecting to see from USF this weekend.
Navy's a really good team. That's their game plan, and they really stuck with it this game. I feel like it really that week we just really tried to prep it, and it was really difficult for us to beat the cut and try to make a lot of plays as a D-line as a whole.
I think we moved the ball extremely well. I think we executed at a high level. The thing that stuck out to me after watching the film was kind of what I said after the game, just red zone efficiency, something that we emphasized a lot this offseason. I think we had good play calls in the red zone. I think it started with me, but I don't think our execution was nearly at the level that it needs to be for us to be successful. So I think there's definitely a lot of positivity on the film, and a lot of positive things, but I think that red zone efficiency and executing in the red zone at a high level is what stuck out to me.
I can't even tell you, Glenn, how good it feels that we waited for 4 months to play a game, and now all of a sudden we got one in 7 days. Are you kidding me? That's like a kid in a candy store. Played against him last year. He's certainly a dynamic athlete, and he throws the ball effectively. And I think you finally saw them kind of settle in offensively last week with playing him. And then I know they had the couple turnovers, but they didn't throw a pick right there. It was 2 fumbles. So certainly kind of found, I think, something that's working for them in him. And he's a guy you got to account for all the time in the run game and scrambling, which is almost harder than just straight run game. So they're I think they've been working to find themselves with a new staff and what have you, and going through what they've been going through, and certainly feels like they've settled on him for this week, and that'll be a challenge.
Moving on from Navy's triple option offense, the Owls will face USF's newly starting quarterback Jordan McLeod, as well as their new head coach Jeff Scott, who was hired in December 2019. I'm Sage Hurley, Inside the Nest. Ray, back to you.
Now, we move on to the next game. USF coach Jeff Scott's expectations are a bit limited in his first season. Things did get off to a good start for the Bulls, beating the Citadel 27-6 in a game where both teams ran wild. USF racked up 302 yards on 39 carries, with 10 different players tallying a carry. After that, however, they fell flat against 7th-ranked Notre Dame. If you think the final score is bad, consider that the Bulls gained only 3.7 yards per play and went 2 of 15 on third down.
Next up for the Bulls was the start of conference play. First, they took on no easy task when they went up against 15th-ranked Cincinnati, where the Bulls could not even muster up 300 yards of total offense. And most recently, was thought to be a pretty even matchup. Got ugly quick as they lost to East Carolina 44-24. The Pirates' offense was just too much to handle on Saturday. ECU did not turn over the ball all game, something all of us will touch on later in the show.
Even though USF is coming off 3 straight losses, Jordan McLeod, the quarterback for USF, threw for more yards in the loss to ECU than he has all season. However, he's only found the end zone once so far this entire year, and that was back in their first game on September 12th.
Another big name to look out for is Johnny Ford. His rushing yards don't really jump off the page at you after 4 games, but he does know how to find the end zone. 3 TDs on the year already for him.
On to the defensive side of the ball, Antonio Greer has really come into his own as the starting middle linebacker for the Bulls. He attacks downhill and has already registered 3 sacks in the team's first 4 games. Now, on to our stops for success for this game. For me, winning the turnover battle will be critical. This USF team is prone to giving the ball up, as is shown in the past 2 weeks. In that stretch, they've thrown 5 interceptions and lost 2 fumbles. The team that wins the turnover battle has never lost in the Temple USF matchup history, and in Temple's current 2-game winning streak against the Bulls, they have a +4 turnover margin.
For me, the Owls cannot play from behind. USF has the ability to be a run-heavy team, and after seeing what Navy did to Temple last week, Navy got out to that early lead. If USF does something similar, they got McLeod and they got Ford. They can be a run-heavy offense, and Owls could really lose control of the game fast. And after a failed comeback against Navy, there is no reason anyone should have a lot of confidence in the Owls' ability to come from behind.
Yeah, for me, guys, looking at this matchup, I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball just like last week. We touched on it. I think they're the more inexperienced group, and you saw that obviously week 1. But this week, I want to look at the other side of things, the pass defense, the secondary presence, good cornerback presence is going to be a key for me in this one. But also the safeties, of course. You have a group with 2 single digits, Christian Braswell and Amir Tyler, and Jalen Ware, who's that transfer we've talked about, and Ludwig Crump, who's coming off that redshirt/injured season he had. Those were the 4 guys that you saw mostly back there for the secondary for Temple, which was expected going into the year that those would be the 4, but you can't help but notice that Navy only threw the ball 2 times on Saturday, and they were both really like screen plays on those 4th downs or 3rd and longs. So we really haven't seen if this group can contest against quarterback presence that can actually throw the football. That's why you got to watch McLeod out for this week, because we don't know if these guys can cover or not. I'm not saying they can't, but it's going to be a key. Show that you can guard the wide receivers, the tight ends, any receivers out there for USF. But with that, it's time to take our second break of the show. But when we come back, we're going to check in on the NFL side of things. And how about the first place Carolina Panthers and a wide receiver on the Carolina Panthers that's one of the top receivers in the NFL.
And of course, coming up next, we are going no huddle. And I'm sure after this past opening weekend, Ray has a lot to get to. You're watching Inside the Nest.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
It was a quiet week around the AAC. Houston and Tulane played on Thursday night, finally kicking off the Cougars season. They looked particularly sharp, and yet again, this Tulane team blew a first-half lead. The Green Wave went cold when it counted, not scoring on their last 6 drives and only moving the ball 0.6 yards per play in that stretch. As for USF and ECU, well, we've broken that one down for you numerous times already.
Let's check in on the Owls playing on Sunday. The Panthers seem to be the team we're always focusing on, but do not be fooled, it is for a good reason. This week, Robbie Anderson managed to net over 110 yards of receiving, and overall this year, he is just shy of 500 yards through 5 weeks. That is 3rd in the entire NFL. The Panthers have won 3 in a row and are currently in a 3-way tie for the lead of the NFC South. Matt Rule is not messing around in his first year in the big leagues.
That's right, No Huddle is back, and this time I'm thinking we can actually talk about some game action rather than a lot of these predictions that we've been talking about, but ultimately I guess that's up to my guy Ray Dunn.
Remember, all the viewers at home, me and Adam have no idea what's coming, and after a game, Ray will be testing our knowledge and seeking our opinions more than ever. Mr. Dunn, take it away.
Mr. Dunn, sounds like I need a bald spot and some glasses, but we'll get to the actual football discussion here. All right, week 1 is behind us, and who would have thought there's criticism of the quarterback position at Temple? Is the criticism of Anthony Russo warranted after that game? Adam, I'll start with you.
I'm going to say, yeah, it's warranted. Obviously, there's going to be some rust after the team doesn't play for 10 months. But I did like, for those of you that don't know, Anthony Russo in the post-game took complete responsibility, saying that the coaches are going to back him up, speaking on that 2-point conversion attempt in particular. He said that the coaching staff's going to take the blame for it, Rod Carey for making that play call, but he has to have the football IQ to make a change, make an adjustment on the fly. He said he had to, if he has to crawl into the end zone, to give a guy a position to get that 2-point conversion. He said even if that pass is completed, Ray's not going to get into the end zone, and I think we could all agree watching that play back, there was no shot that play was going to get those 2 points. So I'm looking at that play in particular, but I think he knows that. So there's some criticism, but he knows that.
If you were critical of Russo last year, you have to be critical of Russo in week 1. We saw a lot of the similar things happening. He did have those 2 rushing touchdowns, which was a bright spot for a lot of people watching the game. But you look at the end of the first half, the Owls have a chance to get 2 for 1. They have the ball in the red zone. First half is about to end, and Russo throws a pretty bad interception. I mean, the safety just dropped back into coverage. The ball was basically thrown right to him. And then, as I previously mentioned, you look on the last drive, there was a couple opportunities for some picks. And, Russo's got to be smarter than that. He's got to keep his eyes, looking around. He's got to get off his reads. He can't really go through his progressions that well from what I saw. But, that's also shaking off some rust. But there's definitely some criticism to go around for Russo. I'm hoping to see better things out of him. But you never know. We'll see in week 2.
I'm sorry. If you told me he was going to run for 2 touchdowns, throw for 70% completion percentage, and they'd put up 29 points, I would have had Temple as a winner. Defense is my blame. But hey, listen. This isn't my week to have takes. We're going to move on. My second question for you guys. The area of greatest concern for you after watching that game. Dom, we'll start with you.
It's got to be the front 4. The linebackers didn't look that strong, but the front 4's ability to be able to stop the run, especially with having some returning players, Vifani Maje and Archibong, both single digits. And Adam mentioned it in his game breakdown. The middle of the field was wide open. You got to be able to fill those gaps. And I know there wasn't really a whole lot of pass plays, but it's got to raise some red flags to see the kind of pressure they can get against a real passing offense. USF is one of those. So it's got to be those front 4. Linebackers as well. Just the front 7 as a whole was a little weak.
Yeah, obviously front 7, and let's get it straight, Ray. The defense is to blame, but Russo still has some criticism for not executing the play to tie the game, but the defense is absolutely the main concern right now. I don't think you can look at it any other way. You look at that team as a whole, the offense looks pretty solid. The receivers look really strong overall, like we predicted, but that front 7 looked inexperienced. Rust or not, they need to show a better performance on Saturday in order to come away with the win at the Link.
I'm not saying it was the perfect game for Russo. I'm telling you he played well enough for them to win.
Enough bickering out of you two.
All right, speaking of getting W's, I'm going to ask you guys, I know you said we're not doing predictions, but we're doing predictions here. I need a score and a final for this game coming up on Saturday against USF. Adam, go ahead.
And me?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I hate score predictions.
I know, that's why I did it.
First of all, Temple's getting the dub. Temple is coming away with a win on Saturday. They're going to bounce back. Different offensive style for USF, as we've mentioned. And I think overall the offense of Temple looked really strong. And, hey, they're going to come away with a win. Even up at 1-1. I'll say 35-28.
Yeah, it should be a pretty easy win for the Owls if they could follow all of our stops to success. USF has not looked like this sternest of competition this year, only netting 1 win against Citadel in week 1. And in conference play, they have dropped 2 pretty bad games to Cincinnati and ECU, so got to be confident in the Owls' ability to bounce back after a week 1 loss to Navy. You know, they shook off some of that rust, finally got out there, game speed on the gridiron. For a score prediction, I'll go 28-17 Temple.
All right, I'm taking them to win 27-17, so I'll go slightly lower.
Copycat.
I got both of our beat reporters' score predictions. Josh has the Owls 34-29. Sage has them 21-17. That's your predictions. We do have time for one more question, so I want to ask most important player to the Owls' success this weekend. We all got W's, so who's getting them there? Dom, we'll start with you.
I mean, we all said there's criticism to go around on Russo. I mean, I want to see a little bit of a better game out of him. You know, USF is not the sternest of competition. The Owls should be able to hang a little bit of pointage on them. So if Russo could, find a rhythm, take care of the football, get the ball downfield. We mentioned countless times, our receiver cores are more than capable of being able to win games for the Owls. So if Russo could have a good game, take care of the football, maybe throw for 2 touchdowns, I don't see a reason the Owls lose.
Might be a pretty obvious pick, but Ray Davis, he gets in the end zone 1 time, but overall he was pretty not a big factor, I would say. I mean, he was in there, but he didn't have any big runs. I think he's gonna have a big showing on Saturday. Maybe some screen passes, go for big gains. Ray Davis is gonna have some highlights next week.
Bounce back game for Daniel Archibald. That's what I'm going with. That'll do it for this edition of No Huddle and this edition of Inside the Nest. But Owl Sports Update week is not over yet. A brand new edition of Owl Sports Update is coming at you Friday at noon with Brooklyn Vaughn and Jackson Neal. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms to get the latest on all things Temple Athletics.
12 o'clock noon at the Link against USF. It's the home opener. It's also homecoming, actually. And we'll have all the game stories following that game. I'll have those up on our website at owlsportsupdate.com, where you can check out anything that you missed following the action.
For Adam Crinali and Ray Dunn, my name is Dom Gillespie. Thanks for watching this edition of Inside the Nest. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.